What's up, guys? In today's Outlier video, we're going to be going over hits allowed props using the mobile app. So first, we're going to click on the props tab on the bottom, and we're going to scroll over on the top to hits allowed. And I already know what player I'm going to be looking into, and it's going to be Bailey Falter over 5.5 hits allowed. But just to show you guys, you could look at all the different options: last 5 games, last 10, last 20, head-to-head, 2023, and even last season 2022. You could also do an advanced filter to show alternate lines. Some books do alternate hits allowed, and then you could suggest the minimum odds, change that up, and also choose your desired sports book from that advanced search. We're going to be looking at 2023 because Falter has not played more than 10 games yet. So if we look at back to 10 games, Falter will show some of his last season stats, which I don't want, which is why sometimes I'll look at 2023 instead of the last 10. So Falter's covered this line in 4 straight games on the season, covered in 6 of 8 when we click 2023. From here, we could also look at his strikeouts, earned runs, and walks. You could do that straight from here. You don't have to go back and search those up individually. But for this prop, I'm going to show you guys the supporting stats that I like to use when deciding if a hits allowed prop is solid or not. So we like to look at pitches thrown, because the more pitches a pitcher throws, the longer they're in the game and the higher chance of you being able to hit the prop. So anywhere between 90 to 100 pitches is really good. That's what you want if you want your guy to be going at least 6+ innings if he's throwing a decent game. But Falter's averaging 82.1 pitches per game. We could see that in the middle of the stack, he had a bunch of mid-90, high-90 pitches games. And the last 3 games, he was in that 60 to 80 range, which could be explained because of the hits allowed. He probably got pulled early because he was letting up a lot of hits. But in the CWS and in the SIN game, we could see that he went to 86 and 98 pitches. So that is a good indication that if he's pitching pretty good, he will stay there longer. So it'll give us a better chance to hit the prop, unless he's just throwing an absolute heater of a game. But we're going to continue looking at these supporting stats. Over here, we're going to see the Braves numbers versus left-handed pitchers. We could see that on the season, they're batting .291 versus lefties, which is second highest in the league. But in the last 30 days, they have been struggling versus lefties, only .238 overall. And you can look at the K percentage versus lefties last 30 and on the season, the batting average of balls in play, and the hard hit percentage. We do see that the hard hit percentage in the last 30 is a little bit higher than on the season, which is pretty good to see. But their last 30 batting average wise, which is what we're looking for in this hits allowed prop, is not that good. What is really nice about this prop right now is that the game is starting pretty soon, in about an hour. So if we click on the matchup on the top right, we will see the exact lineup that the Braves have for today, because that's what Outlier does. Usually when the lineups are announced, Outlier immediately updates with that current lineup. And what we could see is how these Braves guys bat versus lefties, because sometimes they don't have the guys that are batting poorly in the lineup, and sometimes they do. So we'll see. And if we take a look, this is a solid lefty lineup. A lot of these guys bat a lot better versus left-handed pitchers than right-handed pitchers, which is what we like to see for this prop. We'll take a look from the top to the bottom. Anything above 300 is really good. Anything in the 270 to 300 range is really good. And anything 250 or below is usually mid. And anything below 250 is not that great of a batting average. And if we take a look, Acuna's batting .321 versus lefties and 81 at-bats. Albies is batting .389 versus left-handed pitchers and 90 at-bats. That is a crazy batting average. And if you keep going, Riley's only batting .250, Olson's batting .238, Arnold's batting .324, Ozuna's batting .256, Arcia .345, Pilar .257, and then Harris .301. And that is crazy because this lineup is stacked versus lefties. We could also take a look. They've had a few at-bats versus Falter. The bottom 5 of the lineup have gotten a hit. If they had 2 at-bats, they got 1 hit, 4 at-bats, 2 hits. But the top 4, they haven't really gotten too many at-bats as a team. I do think that Acuna could get his hit today. He's batting really well versus lefties. So that is what we could look at. We could also look at the injury list. A lot of these are pitchers, not many injuries from batters, so nothing to really consider here. And if we keep going, we could scroll even farther down and look at Bailey Falter's pitch arsenal. I've showed this before in a previous video, but this basically shows what kind of pitches he throws and how often. So he throws a fastball more than half of the time, and we can take a look at how the Braves are performing versus the fastball. This lineup specifically has greatest WOBA, which is basically a stat that measures how well they get on base, they hit, etc. And I've mentioned this stat in a previous video. So the Braves, except Riley, all of them are batting very well versus the fastball. The WOBA is higher versus the fastball. And the cutter, or the curveball as well, which is his second most thrown pitch, a lot of these guys have a very high WOBA versus the curveball. And all the other pitches, he doesn't throw them that often, 1 in 10th or less. So it's very nice to see that these Braves bats perform very well versus the fastball. And lastly, if you want to get very specific, you could look at every single batter in the lineup. It goes from top to bottom. We know that Falter is a left-handed pitcher, and we click left-handed pitcher, and you could see how all these guys perform in the given area on their heat maps. And Falter loves to throw in that bottom and outside, 15.5%. Acuna's batting 267 there. Some other regions, you could take a look at all the batters. Albies batting 333 there. Riley doesn't bat too well there. Olsen, but that's not the only spot that he throws. Of course, he's throwing it in a lot of these other regions as well. So you could go and look at that. That is basically all the supporting stats I like to look at. Lastly, I forgot, but you could click on this little tab up here and then click on home games. He's only played 3 home games and he covered in 2 of 3, 2 straight. But yeah, guys, that is all the supporting stats I'd like to look at when looking for hits allowed props. This is minus 135 on Bet365. I think it's a solid prop for today. But yeah, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and also make sure you download Outlier, get that 7-day free trial. iOS is out on iOS, and you guys could do exactly what I did and look at all the other props that Outlier shows for hits allowed. I'll see you guys in the next video.